Welcome to Buckets, coming to you from the Tommy John's home studios. This is your Best Bets episode for Tuesday, November 19th in the association, featuring the titanic battle between the undefeated Cleveland Cavaliers and the reigning, defending world champion Boston Celtics. Very excited for this game. It's going to be awesome. And to break it down as well as give best bets for the rest of the slate, including obscure props, I've got Joe Delera at Joe Delera. Great season for him so far. He's with us. I've also got J Money with us every single Monday night going into Tuesday. Usually Sean Little's here for cash only. Sean covering the Knicks game tonight as the Knicks trounced the Nets so bad that they fucked up my same game parlay because I just needed 5 more points from Karl Anthony Towns, Joe Delera.
Sorry, he was too good. Honestly, he missed a couple bunnies. He should have had that for you.
You can't deliver when you need him, Joe Delera. Just keep that in mind when we start talking about the Cup MVP bet that you forced me into as I bet it in the Action Network app. 75-1, Karl Anthony Towns, Cup MVP, because I just kept being like, yeah, it's too long. Yeah, the number's not right. I got bullied into it by the future Jays. You can check out that episode from yesterday and track it in the Action Network app. Also, make sure to check out Parlay Express, our new Parlays account on there. If you just search for Parlay Express under our accounts, it's for fun, okay? But there's a lot of discussion about parlays and about the hold, and I think that entire discussion, like if you're a serious bettor, you already know the value on parlays is tough. But the reason they're popular is because they're fun as hell. And so we're providing those bets at very, very, very small fractions of a unit to get one. I was looking really good on one tonight, and then the Warriors are going to screw me because they're down 14 at the Clippers, even though they're on 2 days rest. The Clippers on 3rd and 4 back-to-back, because that's how the NBA works. Make sure to check out youtube.com/the Action Network. You can catch a live version, not a live version, but a video version of this show and see Jay in his new house with his green screen that we can't set up on this platform, as well as Joe Delera. You can catch with his great background stuff as well. Let's get to it, guys. Let's not dilly-dally. Let us not waste any more time. The Boston Celtics, the defending NBA champions, have 3 losses. The Cleveland Cavaliers have none. They have not lost. They have made it all the way to this matchup undefeated. They are 5.5-point dogs in this matchup. The look-ahead line this is what's cool is we actually have look-ahead lines on this one because it's a cup game. And so the look-ahead line on this from the summer was 2.5. It opened in the market at 4. It went back to 3.5. It went back to 4. It went to 4.5. It's gone to 5. And now 5.5s are in the market as we discuss this on Tuesday night. The total in this game at 232.5, a pretty hefty total here as well. Let's give best bets for just this game, and then we'll hit the rest of the card. Jay, what's your best bet for Cavs Celtics?
Give me the Celtics -5.
All right, Joe Delera?
I like Jayson Tatum over 8.5 rebounds, and I was just thinking about one. I got an extra one. The Celtics to qualify for the Cup quarterfinals at +300.
Ooh, that's a smart one. All right. All right. I bet the Cavs 4.5 have already lost a point of value, but I will go ahead and I'll take the Cavs side on this. Jay, give me your cap first, and then I will provide the rebuttal.
Yeah, really just going with my spots here. I said if the Cavs made it all the way to this point that I'd be all over the Celtics. Here we are. They're 15-0. I do not think they go 15-1. People don't really understand how hard it is to continue to go undefeated. We've seen the Cavs continue to teeter on the loss. They didn't do it versus the Bulls or the Hornets, but they almost lost versus the 76ers. They almost lost versus the Bulls the first time they faced them, and they had to come back versus the Brooklyn Nets as well. So there's something I'd like to track when teams are really close to a loss, but they don't lose. I call that teetering on a loss, and that's what the Cavs are doing here. They're going on the road to a tough environment. The Celtics are still the best team in the NBA. I know that they don't have Porzingis out there, but this team can still match up defensively with the Cleveland Cavaliers over there. And you have two-way guys on the Celtics like Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. You look at the couple of best guys for what the Cavs like to do. They can really defend the paint well with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. But you look at if you look at the two outside guys, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, they're not going to be stopping anyone on the Celtics, in my opinion. I think Derek White is going to have free reign here. Even Drew Holiday is going to be able to score some points here as well. But mainly Jaylen Brown. I don't really think they have a matchup, two great guys that can guard Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum here. So like the matchup here for the Celtics. And also just a really quick story. I saw this movie in the WNBA where the Las Vegas Aces went to the Minnesota Lynx. The Lynx were like 9-1, 10-1 or something like that. Same line and everything. And I said to myself, the Aces are going to take this game serious. They're going to see that the Lynx have started off hot. They're going to be like, okay, let's go out here and show them who the real boss is. And that's the exact same situation we have here. Almost the same line as well. I think the Celtics, even though they're have 3 losses so far this season, this is a really big game to them. They may not care about many games in the regular season, but when they look over and see that the Cavs are 15-0 and the only undefeated team in the NBA, they're going to suit up and say, hey, let's go get these guys, go hand them their first loss. That's exactly what I think they do here. I think Missoula will have these boys ready. Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum come to play like the Celtics by double digits here.
Okay, I want to start with this question. If I was going to convince you off of this, I'm going to work backwards. If I was going to try and talk you off of this, what would I have to do? I know that you're going to say there's nothing. I'm saying in a hypothetical world where you did get talked off of this, what would I have to do? Is it trends? Is it matchup? Is it spot? Is it motivation? What would I have to do?
Well, the spot is in my favor with the Celtics. A lot of people, I mean, you can try to throw out trends and stats. I don't really care about them, in my opinion. I like the spot is bigger than both of those. But the one thing that you could say, something that I don't usually bet against, and that's playoff revenge. The Cavs did lose to the Celtics in the playoffs. So that's really the only one thing that's working for the Cavs, in my opinion, the way that I look at games. Other than that, all the points point to the Celtics here.
So I pay a lot of attention to Boston coverage, and the best one out there for me for coverage is John Corrales of Boston Sports Report, and he hosts Locked On Celtics. John's been covering this team for 2 decades, and John's got a really, really good view of the organization holistically and the locker room in terms of their identity and personality. And John has pretty much consistently said, like, the team's coasting a little bit. Not like a lot, but they're coasting a little bit. I don't think they look over and see the Cavs and go like, oh man, they're undefeated, we're going to get up for this one. I don't think they do. I think they look at the Sixers. I think they look at the Knicks. I don't think they take Cleveland seriously yet. Even with this record, I really don't think that they do. When you win that title, someone's going to have to beat you in order for you to really believe it. And like, to me, I learned this after watching the Nuggets that year after, is they got whooped by a bunch of contenders. OKC, Dallas, Phoenix, Minnesota last year. And the attitude was always like, yeah, no, that was good. You know, we'll see what happens in the playoffs, because you think that you're invincible because you're the reigning champs. And you're like, what matters is what happens in April. So I don't think that the Celtics are going to get up for this. I don't think that this is a great spot for them. I think that this is more of I actually think that they're like, well, yeah, they're undefeated, but we're going to end that. We're at home and we're the defending champions, and we won 60 plus games last year. John, I also mentioned that they've lost 3 games, and there's a lot of like, yeah, they don't feel as good as last year. Like, they're still really good, but they don't feel as good as they're on pace for a better record. So like, they're right where they need to be. Last thing on the spot I will kind of mention is, I just kind of feel like there is so much anticipation of, oh, well, this is the one where they lose. And Cleveland has been really good about, no, absolutely not. I feel like the Cavs are only going to lose when they actually get caught by a team where it's like, yeah, they just couldn't hit anything. And maybe that's this game. It's entirely possible. Like, the reality is that this game is pretty sharp. Like, especially now after the market is weighed in, this is a pretty sharp number right now. Now, I didn't think it was sharp at 4.5, which is why I bet it, right? Like, I couldn't get there on this number because Jay said the Celtics are still the best team in the league. I can't get there because of a number of factors, including there's a matchup thing I'll get to, and I want Joe's thoughts on all this. But I just when I run numbers on this, I can't come out with Boston as more than a 2-point favorite. I said last night I have Cavs favored. What do you expect if I'm using this season's numbers? Of course the Cavs are going to be favored. They're undefeated and they've slaughtered every team by 17 points. Of course the numbers are going to spit this out. Preseason modeling, if you kind of blend the two, I still can't get this to more than Celtics 2.5. So I've got to be on this at 4.5. It's a number play. There's a matchup and an injury that I have a lot of concerns about, but I want to get Joe's thoughts on what we've kind of talked about here with the spot.
Yeah, so I mean, I think from a spot perspective, you can see this, and I lean more the way that Jay's looking at this. I think that this is a spot where the Cavs have been a team that we just like we watch them and we're like, yeah, you're really good. You seem like you're regular season good. And like that's just been their story like year after year now, like in this kind of era that they have.
To be
And
fair, that was also the Boston Celtics story until
It
they
was.
ran into 3 extremely injured teams.
But they did it. And they did it. Like
They were winning regardless, man.
They still
Come on,
took
man.
care of care of business though. So for me, like when I look at the spot and you look at that, it's like, okay, well, like, yeah, like I didn't really trust Boston last year, but like they did it, they won the title, whatever, like they're stamped, they're verified. Now, like you have the situation where this is a spot where I don't really think there's a ton of pressure on Boston. Like I think that the pressure is really on Cleveland. They have this winning streak, and now you got to go play the reigning champs. And it's like, hey, not only is this winning streak on the line, but something that probably matters for your organization because you guys don't really win too much of anything in Cleveland, right? Is the NBA Cup. And this is your chance to, if you beat Boston, you probably you have a great chance to advance here and you have a great chance to move forward. You're literally going to knock them out if you beat them. They're going to be done. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Cleveland to get this done, keep this winning streak going, and see if they can like even continue to make more and more history with that. So to me, even though Boston's favored, Boston's at home, I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Cleveland. And then now they're going to be in a really like hostile environment for this game where you're going in, you're going to have the court, like the fancy court, you're going to have the fans going nuts. And if things start going sideways, which they can do because of the way Boston plays, like stylistically, it's like an avalanche when Boston starts scoring. And I know like that can be a little bit tougher to navigate for a team that's kind of going through this like uprising for, you know, not like the first time, but because like they have been a good team, but to the level that they're doing it, I think that there's a lot of pressure on Cleveland to get this done.
Yeah, I think my thing here is I don't necessarily like it when the Celtics are not under pressure. I don't feel like they play well. I feel like they fuck around a lot when they're not under a lot of pressure. Like they're pretty consistent, and I've credited them with that. But I don't necessarily love an opportunity where like they're facing a team that's really going to go for it. Matchup wise, okay. Like I said, took this on the number. I have thought seriously about buying out. My window has now closed at 5.5 because I know if I take Celtics 5.5, it's gonna land 5.
100%.
It's gonna be 127, 122 Boston, and I'm gonna be throwing things. So I'll just live with it. It's fine. I got the bet. I'll ride. Matchup wise, here's a problem. Cavs are one of the worst teams in terms of opponent 3-point shooting percentage, but they are 12th in opponent 3-point shooting attempts.
Yeah.
That's more important defensively. Jay would have a good counter, which is nothing you do changes how much Boston's going to shoot the 3. Yep. And he's right. Like, Boston's going to shoot the 3 in volume. Now, if Kenny Atkinson can scheme something up, one of the problems is that the Cavs play a lot of 2-on ball. Like, they actually want to get the ball out of the primary initiator, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum's hands. You don't want to do that versus Boston because that's skip pass 3-pointer, right? The edge that the Cavs have is the points in the paint. The Celtics are genuinely awful. Like, they are bad on interior defense. Mobley and Allen, we should probably look at Allen props here, Joe.
Yeah.
Allen and Mobley should eat here, as honestly should the guards, because they should be able to get to the rim on cuts and in pick and roll action. Like, they should be able to get this should be Cavaliers 2-pointers versus Boston shot variants, right? And if you're going in that direction, again, I understand the Celtics side. It's not bad. Like, I get it. I do wind up feeling like the Cavaliers have better defensive versatility at this point. The Celtics have settled so far into like, oh yeah, we're just going to switch everything. And then you're going to like, you can score at the rim, but we're going to shoot threes. Like, their defense, I've been really perplexed by the fact that their defense is so good from a metrics perspective because it doesn't match eye test for me. Like, I'm having a hard time with it because I'm like, hey, like Boston doesn't look as good defensively. And then I check the numbers and it's like, no, they're 7th. They're fine. They're totally okay. Probably going to wind up top 10. I will say this though, they're 7th in defensive rating adjusted, with the 26th ranked defensive strength of schedule via dunks and threes. That tracks. They've played the Hornets. They've played all these trash East teams. So this is a team that's actually going to put pressure on them. It's one reason why I lean a lot towards the over. Like, I just feel like this is going to be an over game because it's going to be the Cavs run up and down the floor and score on the inside. The Celtics are able to shoot enough threes, and that's where your ball game is. And, like, honestly, this could wind up being, like, I'll say this. Jay, do you think this is... I'm going to give you 3 options. Celtics just cover, Celtics double digits, Celtics blowout.
Celtics double digits. I think Garland and Mitchell defensively get exposed here. Like I said, I'll say it again. Mobley and Allen, that's the Cavs. That's their edge here, especially without Porzingis not having the Celtics not having Porzingis. But I think Garland and Mitchell get put in the pick and roll every single time, and the Celtics can do whatever they want. Like I said, that's their weakness. That's literally the Cavs' main only weakness. I've been talking about it all year. If you have a great point guard, like we saw Dame going crazy versus these guys. Remember, they almost lost to the Bucks twice. So,
but they're not going to use Derek White in pick and roll. It's going to be Tatum and Brown.
Yeah, well, Tatum and Brown can do whatever the hell they want versus Garland and Mitchell.
But they're not. Those guys aren't going to be guarding them. But, like, they're going to put Donovan on Drew, and they're going to put Garland on White.
Okay. Well, all you got to do is hunt switches. It's the NBA. You hunt switches. So whoever's Mitchell has, you just call that pick and roll.
They won't switch that though. Is the thing. That's the one they won't switch.
But then,
they'll play either a drop coverage or they'll blitz it.
I probably want
playing drop. You're going to get killed from 3.
Yeah, like I'm going to want Tatum and Brown in those spots. I think. Like, I don't think that I think Mobley is like good, right? Like he's gotten a lot better defensively, but I think that Tatum's ability to score at every level is a huge problem for defending him.
But if this turns into Jayson Tatum trying to will them to win versus Cavaliers cutting inside, dunking at the rim, inside-outside game, which one do you want then? Because, like, I would want Celtics if it's Derek White threes, Drew Holiday threes, Jaylen Brown threes, Al Horford threes, Sam Hauser threes, Peyton Pritchard threes, Larry Bird threes, fucking Robert Parrish threes, Antoine Walker. That's where I want Boston. I don't want Jayson Tatum versus Donovan Mitchell one-on-one.
Yeah,
Tatum's been going crazy this year.
I agree.
He's
He's
going crazy lately.
No, I agree, Jay. But is that what you like? You want the collective Celtic strength. You don't want them playing hero ball because there's strengths in the collective, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But I still trust Tatum in one-on-one situation and Jaylen Brown.
And what may wind up happening is like they try and trap Tatum when they run those guard screens, and Derek White just slips to the outside, and Tatum passes over him, and it's a wide open Derek White 3. Like that's entirely possible. I'm about to bring up a player. Joe's going to be amused because I tend to think that this is the most important player in the NBA because the numbers bear it out that he's an extremely important player, even though nobody knows who he is. Last season in the Cavaliers' wild comeback in March versus the Boston Celtics, one man led that wild comeback by hitting about 18,000 threes. What was that man's name, Joe Delera?
D. Wade.
D. Wade! Dean Wade, not D. Wade. Dean Wade. I have wild numbers for you. This goes back to the first Donovan Mitchell season, 2022-23. I'm about to reinforce Jay's case here. Wade is out for this game, and it's extremely fucking frustrating for me that every single time I want to bet the Cavaliers, Dean Wade is out in a key pivotal game. When Dean Wade does not play for the Cavaliers, including the regular season and playoffs, going back to 2022-23, the Cavs are 41-39 straight up, just 51%. They are 30, 46, and 4, 40% ATS when he does not play. They are also 43, 36, and 1 to the over at 54%. When they're on the road without Dean Wade, they are 22, 31, and 4, 42% ATS. And when they are dogs, this is the killer, 4-19 straight up, 8-15 against the spread, 35% when Dean Wade does not play. The net ratings all indicate that Dean Wade is an extremely positive player for them. He spaces the floor and he's actually tall. So It's adding a shooter who you don't lose a rebounding edge with.
Mm-hmm.
And that combination is really where Wade's value is. He's out. Okoro's questionable. Levert's questionable. That sucks to find out after I bet 4.5. That wasn't ideal for me because I definitely would have been like, whoa. So as always, I continue to be the moron that doesn't wait for the injury report because he's so excited to get an opening number and feels like he needs to weigh in the market instead of being a smarter and better. Be more like Joe, be more like Jay. You'll get better numbers. So I'm very concerned about those elements. I've given you like 18 points in favor of the Celtics here. I'm on the Cavaliers. The number to me remains very solid in terms of just like, this is a lot of points for a team that I think is that good. I don't think they're regular season good. I think they're ready for this moment. I think eye test wise, Boston's not quite the team. I'm willing to be wrong. I don't think that this is like I'm not dismissing Boston. I'm just willing to wager that the Cavaliers will lose by 4.5 points, now 5.5 points or less. Joe and Jay both like the Celtics. Can't blame them. The market agrees. Joe, tell me about your Tatum prop.
So Tatum has been great rebounding the basketball, honestly, for the majority of the year, but it's also been in particularly strong against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's had double-digit boards in 9 of his last 10 games against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I think that you could look at double-double. It depends on kind of the way that your book prices things, but the best number that I'm seeing, I think it's worth like losing a little bit of the juice here because I'm seeing the best number is like plus 120 for double-double, whereas you can get 10 plus boards at plus 160 at Bet365. So I think that I'd rather narrow it and get an extra 40 cents of value because I think that's really just the most likely scenario there. So I like Tatum to go over 8.5 against them. And like I said, he's had double digits in 9 of the last 10. So some of that's playoffs, but I do think that it's possible we could see a little bit of expanded minutes here in a cup game. I'm not saying that Boston's going to go play him, 48 minutes, but I think that it's possible we start seeing maybe like high upper 30s or so if the game is close, if the game is competitive.
Okay. Rebounding has been good, but they're going to run a lot of minutes with Mobley at 5. And in those lineups, they do switch more, and Tatum will probably eat on rebounds, especially in those kind of situations.
They also like Tatum. They kind of like to use Tatum to get some of the boards to start initiating the offense in transition, which is something that like we've seen, Curry do with the Warriors, stuff like that. So that's also why I like this look.
You want the Lakers or the Celtics to make the quarterfinals, not
I think
this is just to get out of. This is to get out of group play, right?
Yeah. So I kind of misspoke on the odds a little bit because basically to get out of the group play, which includes the wild card, the best number there is plus 200. Okay. To win the group, the best number is plus 350. I think this is a good question maybe for you, Matt, in a way, like with the way that those odds are framed, with the way that the standings shake out, it might be better. I'm not sure if it's better to just say like, you know what, we're going to give up the one out for a plus for basically 150 cents or $1.50 difference and go all the way to say like they're going to win the group. When the group, they would have beat the Cavs, which is their toughest competition. They lost to the Hawks, but the Hawks are the Hawks. So like, so there's that.
Take that, Jim Turvey.
So that's kind of the way that I was looking at it, because I think that you should play that. And then the other thing that I saw, DraftKings has this. It really is like equating to be like a stale line, but basically DraftKings has like a special on Cavs' first loss. And they list this game against the Celtics at minus 180, which is like not in line with the current money line price. The current money line price for Boston is like over minus 200. So if you were looking at a money line price, that's off like of what is currently accurate, I think.
Okay. This comes down to actually one fundamental question, Joe, which is, do you think the Boston, okay. There's no way that they could make the quarterfinals with 2 losses. There's no chance.
They have to win. Yeah, they have to win out.
So you got it. So what you're doing here, this is actually a parlay.
Yeah.
Right. The group is they're going to beat Cleveland. They're going to beat Washington. They're going to beat Chicago. And then the Hawks are going to lose at least twice.
Yeah. Or at least to Cleveland and create a three-way tie.
Which, like, let's give that like a minus number because it's the Hawks.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about Washington. That's a win. Like, if you bet on the Celtics and the Wizards beat the Celtics, you just have to go like, that's the NBA for you.
It is
and move
what
on
it
with
is.
your life. And then the Chicago one, I think, is actually kind of interesting. And so that not to galaxy brain this, but there's a reason why I love the Bulls tonight on the money line. In a parlay only because I'm an idiot and didn't bet separately, because the Bulls are a very high variance team. They're bombing from three this year.
Yeah.
I don't know that you really want to tie everything into assuming like, well, if the Celtics beat the Cavs, then they're going to win the group because there's Chicago sitting out there, and it might be just like all the Celtics have to do is to beat the Bulls to go to the NBA Cup quarterfinals. Oh no, Zach LaVine had 43 and Kobe White hit 5 threes and shooting very like, if it was two slugfest teams, I would act like it was the Magic who are way better than the Bulls. I would still be like, yeah, I like Boston. But specifically that Chicago matchup makes me pump fake a little bit here, Joe.
Yeah, it definitely gives me like a little bit of pause, but I do think the number, like the plus 350, I'm interested in it because I know what the money line price is here for Boston to beat Cleveland. They're going to be, and I think they're going to be double-digit favorites at a minimum. I mean, like, they're not going to be triple-digit favorites, but like they're going to be like, you know, at least double-digit favorites or maybe significant double-digit favorites against Washington. And then even against Chicago, I would struggle to see them not being 10-point favorites. So like
your other problem here,
looking at the pricing,
Boston's only -1.
Yeah,
but your point differential here is rough because Knicks are already plus 14, and if they win out, right? Let's say that they beat the Magic by 10. Orlando is plus 37 going into the Nets matchup.
So you probably really just need to bet them. If you're gonna do this, you would need to bet Boston to win the Cup group at plus 350 because you're just isolating it then to like the things that you like, those control variables. Basically, it's like it has less variability.
Yeah, that's actually in a situation where you don't want more outs because the outs aren't as good as your singular outcomes.
So plus 350 on MGM is where it is.
Okay, cool. That wraps up our Cavaliers and Celtics talk. We'll do a few more best bets. I'll get Jay's thoughts on what we think about the rest of the slate, as well as Joe's best bets for the rest of the night. He's got some props for you. I do want to let you know, mention that we're coming to you from our Tommy John home studios. That's because great games start with great underwear, and Tommy John makes the greatest. The pajama pants will change your life. I'm not even kidding. Like, you'll just be like, I'm not going to work. I'm going to sit around all day in these comfy Tommy John pants. That's what I'm doing with my day. If you're sitting around on Sunday watching football, because like I'm on mountain time, which means my game started at 11. You know, I sleep in a little bit. I get up. I have coffee, hanging out in my Tommy Johns, feeling. I got the black and gray camo ones, feeling like Bubba Ray Dudley, sitting at my kitchen table, going over the games, putting on some wagers, watching Convince Me, and hanging out in the most comfortable pants that you're ever going to find. The underwear is amazing. The T-shirt is ridiculous. It is so comfortable. It's going to absolutely change everything about how you wear stuff around the house and underneath stuff when you go out as well. Remember, when you're truly comfortable, you do everything better, and that includes betting. So if you love buckets and if you love this crew, you're going to love Tommy John. Get 25% off your first order right now at TommyJohn.com/buckets. Save 25% at TommyJohn.com/buckets. Before we move on here, a quick announcement. Action Network is running back our annual Black Friday sale, offering our best prices of the year on a year-long Action Pro subscription. So if you still aren't a pro subscriber, visit actionnetwork.com/Black Friday to get $40 off a year of pro and receive instant access to all the picks and projections from our guys Colin, Calabrese, the whole Action Network team, as well as instant picks from guys like Brandon Anderson. That's actionnetwork.com/Black Friday for the best price of the year on Action Pro. All right, Joe, you've got more best bets. Jay's fired off his solo play for the night. Hit me with your best bets for the rest of the slate.
So the next game, let's look at the Spurs versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the play that I'm looking at is Chris Paul over 16.5 points plus assists. Victor Wembanyama is listed as, I think he's doubtful for this game with the knee. So I would say it's unlikely that he's going to play. It's doubtful that he's going to play. Honestly, it doesn't really affect my cap for this at all. If anything, I think I like it a little bit better because I think there's going to be a little bit more usage to go around for Chris Paul.
Hang on.
Like
Joe said, this major player is out, and honestly, it doesn't affect my cap at all. I don't even really care. And like Jay just starts like nodding vigorously, like yes,
I love that.
Don't give a shit about the context of what's happening. Trust your instincts. All right, go ahead, Joe.
So, because the reason that I wanted and I looked at this spot was Oklahoma City obviously just doesn't have a big. They just have no centers right now. And that's why I like this spot for Chris Paul. Number one, average height on the floor is going to be a little bit shorter, so that's helpful for him, but not really the point. The main point of this is that they're going to be highly susceptible to some pick and roll. Obviously, having Wemby as a pick and roll partner on paper makes a lot of sense, and you would say, this is great. The problem is that when Wemby's on the floor, Wemby wants to be Steph Curry half the time, and you don't get these pick and roll opportunities. Whereas now you're going to have a little bit better situation here where you're going to have these other guys in the Spurs cutting and trying to run pick and roll with Chris Paul, and that's just kind of what the situation is going to be for them. So I like the upside there in terms of the assists. I like the upside there for Chris Paul just to have to score a little bit because there's just a huge void that's left by the usage that Wemby normally has. Looking at this particular matchup for Chris Paul for the season, he's averaging 18.8 points plus assists per game. He's hit this line in 8 of 14 games. Looking at the matchup against Oklahoma City, obviously Oklahoma City has gone through a couple of different iterations, some changes, whatever. But at a certain level, the coaching kind of remains the same. There's a couple of things going on with scheme, and Chris Paul has been highly effective against that. And he's averaged 21.9 points plus assists against them dating back to 2021 and gone over this line in 9 of 11 games. He's hit this in 3 games in a row, including the one game this season where he had 23 points plus assists. So I think it's worth a look there. I also think that double-double isn't crazy, and you can get some really big odds at that, even like as high as plus 500, because the points line and the assist line are both under 10.
Okay, I like this. I lean towards the under, but I've got my problem here is the Spurs defense is 7 points worse per 100 possessions without Wemby, so that impacts me here. But actually, Wembanyama, the offense is only 1 point better with Victor than without him. And the reason this plays into yours is like my concern with Chris would be, okay, are they going to be able to score? Like if you like an under, can you really like a Chris over prop? But Wemby doesn't really impact the offensive end that much, so I actually think you're probably okay here.
Yeah, and
I like this play.
Just the way that he's used has been so like odd this year. Like he's got all this height, he has all this athleticism, and like there will be entire games where he doesn't go to the rim. Like,
bro, he's shooting 12-3. I talked about this on my show. It literally drove me crazy. Why are you're the tallest guy on the floor and you're coming up the floor shooting pull-up threes? I don't care that he went 6 for 12. No. That's not the fact of the matter. You need to use your strengths. The Chris Paul and Wemby pick and roll should literally feed families. Like he can catch that lob literally every single play, or he'll shoot 20 free throws a game. But I just want to say I'm right with Joel Nilsson. I really like it. I think the fact that Wemby's out makes even more sense. I mean, they only scored 93 points in their last game in OKC, and Chris Paul still had 14 points and 9 assists as well. And he's definitely going to have to pick up the scoring here if they want to have any chance of winning here. Obviously, he used to play for OKC as well, but I like that. It makes a ton of sense here for me.
And without Wemby, honestly, they're just going to run basic NBA stuff. It's just going to be basic pick and roll stuff with Chris.
Exactly. And Wemby's not shooting 12 threes. Like, what are we doing
just
here,
let him be the adult in the room. It's fine.
All right. Let's get into Jazz Lakers, because I think we got a same game we can cook up here. I'll go first. So projections make this double digits. Lakers have been here's the thing: Lakers smash at home, and they smash. Generally speaking, they've smashed bad teams. They had some trouble on the road, like Toronto, those kind of squads. In general, this team does tend to beat up on the bad teams like a good team does. That's not a bad thing. That's just like what they do. Jazz without Walker Kessler. So this is going to be a soft interior line with, Kyle Filipowski going up against AD. AD wrecks these type of teams. This is who he beats the shit out of, and then everybody's like, is Anthony Davis the MVP? Did you see him last night? He had 35 points against a 6'7" guard that was guarding him. Who could have done it? And so, he'll have 5 blocks because the Jazz offense is also terrible. But I also think that the Lakers defense is worse than people realize. They're actually not good, and they are middle of the pack in half court defense and terrible in transition. And the Jazz run a little bit here. I think this is an offensive game. I think this is a game where the Lakers put up a huge point total. This has been ticking up. It's 232.5 in the market. I only want it to 233, but I will take the over at any number south of 233. So if you wake up in the morning and this is 233.5, sorry, we do the best we can. Sit it out. Next time, wait up until 2 o'clock in the morning East Coast time and listen to the podcast the second it drops. But I like this to 233. I think this is going to be an up and down game. I will lay the points with the Lakers. And Joe, you're with me on Anthony Davis. This is probably going to be, he's going to look like Godzilla here.
Yeah, he's going to absolutely smash because, look, he's averaging 31.1 points per game. They just continue to refuse to give him a 30-point prop line. They just won't do it. This is like the stickiest line I've ever seen when the guy is just dropping monster games. And it's being pulled down because he had a tough game against Cleveland. Toronto, it's because I think LeBron just went crazy. And then Memphis is like a little bit of a tougher matchup with Edie and with Jaren Jackson Jr. or whatever. This is not a tough matchup right now. Like Walker Kessler is not playing in this game. He's out. We're looking at John Collins. And the thing is too, the Lakers have really struggled to kind of win games that they should win, right? Like they still haven't totally looked great. Like they barely got through the Pelicans the other day, and it requires a lot from both LeBron and Anthony Davis. So I think this is something that LeBron obviously cared about. He cared about the cup last year. I think that they still care about it this year. I think it's important, or they believe it's important because of some of the benefits that it gives for the other people that are in the organization with some of the money that comes along with it. And then they're also trying to defend their NBA Cup title from last year. It's something that they can do. Right. So for me, there's a banner and you have to hang it.
No, you don't.
No,
the Celtics would not hang a banner. If they won.
Look, no, literally no person on the earth loves the cup as much as I do, but you have to stop making this. They got to defend the cup.
They got
it. James has 4 NBA titles. He does not need to defend the cup. That is not a thing. I don't think the Lakers or the Celtics or the Cavs, for that matter, care about the cup. I think some of the other teams are like, man, it'd be really good to win it, and we could. I could
young
use that.
teams.
I could use that.
Young teams.
Yeah.
The young teams that have no business, they're not even going to make the playoffs or know they're not going to win a championship. Those are the teams that really care about the cup.
Regardless, though, Anthony Davis is going to absolutely destroy the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
The Jazz have the worst defense in the league. They can't defend the rim. And there's just nobody that's going to line up opposite of him and have any chance of defending him in this game. 28.5 is just way too low.
This is one of those games where 4 years ago I would have been like, no, look, let me tell you why John Collins is going to do a good job here.
Yeah.
And then he would have gotten eradicated.
Yeah.
It's actually not a bad matchup for Lauri Markkanen. He just kind of seems like he's done with Utah. He just seems like he doesn't really care. When I've been watching, he doesn't care to play basketball on a serious level, but the matchup sets up well for him.
I don't think he's out on Utah. I think he got the memo. He gets.
Yeah, I'm telling you, bro.
He gets. I think they have communicated hey, next next year,
hey,
you're gonna need a phantom injury.
He needs to play and score because he'll hit his bonuses.
Yeah.
Right? There's incentive money for him in the bonus structures. So he'll do that. But it's also hey, buddy. No need to don't go taking a charge from AD. Not needed. Don't be a hero. All right. Same game parlay. Lakers minus 10.5 over 232. Davis 30 plus is 465. Okay. So that'll be the official bucket same game parlay of the night.
I like it.
Joe, I want to ask you this. I mentioned the Lakers and their transition defense. They are bottom 5 in transition defense. Colin Sexton leads the Jazz in fast break points per game, averaging about 2.5. That's like, it's not great. Like, there's actually not many, like Jazz aren't great in transition, but like that's a little bit of an edge there. We can bump this up and put Colin Sexton 15 plus points to 850. I don't know whether that's worth it. We go from 465 to 495, sorry, to 850.
I don't hate it. I think it makes sense. Utah's been kind of tough to cap because they just are like, they just are playing the most random rotations and people are getting dramatically different usage. Like John Collins,
it's almost like they're not trying to win.
Yeah, no, but like literally, like John Collins was being like the highest used player 2 games in a row, scoring basically 30 points back-to-back nights to scoring like 10 in the first quarter and then not seeing the ball again basically for the rest of the game. So like they just don't really make a lot of sense. And even when there is a cap that does make sense like this, where you're like, all right, yeah, like Colin Sexton, this makes sense. His history against the Lakers is good. History, honestly, on this season is pretty good for 15 points. It just is like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what his rotation is going to look like because his minutes have kind of gone up. And then they just came down to 20 last game against the Clippers. Granted, I think they got blown out. So that probably is a little bit of a factor. But either way, if the floor falls out and we think the Lakers are going to like kick their doors in, his minutes, he's going to be like one of the first guys off the floor.
Basically, what Joe's saying, if you're playing really good, then you're going to the bench.
Yeah,
for the Jazz.
Yeah.
Like we're not closing this gap.
So we'll run both. We'll do the base parlay is gonna be Lakers minus 10.5 over 232. Anthony Davis 30 plus.
Yeah,
at 495 at DraftKings. I will throw in Colin Sexton 15 plus at 850, and not a sprinkle, a pinch on Sexton 20 plus. Lakers 10.5 over 232, Davis 30 plus, and Colin Sexton 20 plus points is 18-1.
Mm.
That is.
I throw marketing in there, man. I throw marketing in there to get 20.
Let's just put the whole team in there.
I don't.
I was saying instead of Sexton.
Well, here's my here's my only thing with marketing. 1, he gets banged up. 2, they're more likely to let Sexton play more minutes than marketing.
It makes sense.
He's more likely to play some more. All right, that's got to do it for Buckets. My thanks to David Payne for producing the episode. My thanks to Brady Rubino and the rest of the crew for getting us up at youtube.com/theactionnetwork. We'll see you guys again tomorrow for best bets going into the Wednesday slate. We'll recap the cup action and talk about what's going on there. Download the Action Network app. Got lots of great stuff up there for you daily. We'll see you guys again next time. Until then, let's get buckets.